Aw.
Hello everybody! Welcome back to the second part of our Seleukid Let's Play.
My name is Icarix and he's Kinagosis, and he's a right old pain in the arse because he explicitly heard me saying that I wasn't ready to start yet, but the bastarding bastards decided to start anyway.
Yeah, well, whatever. So, we are clearly after a battle and we were dealing with a little UI glitch. And then, things happened. I wonder if this is partly when I forgot to unpause the footage when I reloaded the game.
Come on now, Kinagosis, I expect a level of professionalism on your end. Usually I'm the one who's goofing around and everything.
This campaign has been just a little bit buggier than something the last one we did. So having that UI glitch, I have to pause recording to save the game and reload the game, the save. But sometimes I forget to turn off the pause. I forget to unpause it. But anyways,
gasp.
We are.
Was this before the patch came in? Actually,
this is nothing to any sort of patch or something. This is just a game problem that probably using certain mods.
Ah, right.
It's a bug.
Okay.
But yeah, so we are making progress in our war against the Galatians.
Yep, slow and steady wins the race. That's the usual saying.
Yes, we have one army besieging Ankara, whilst our other army is raiding.
Galatia and Cappadocia.
Yeah, Galatia and Cappadocia.
I keep thinking it's actually supposed to be pronounced Cappadocia from Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Yeah, I suppose it depends what pronunciations you want to go by.
Yeah,
I like using the restored classical pronunciation of Latin.
Yeah,
so it means. So it would mean it would be Cappadocia.
Yeah, that actually does make sense.
A more ecclesiastical, which is generally very Italian-like pronunciation, would be more like Cappadocia. But I think even in Greek, it's like Cappadocia.
How can I assist you? Bringing destruction and chaos.
But yeah, so yep, Ankara, which is now the modern-day Ankara, the capital of Turkey.
And would you look at that? We have a sabotage mission that was actually bloody successful for once.
Yes.
Finally, nice to be breaking the chain of failure.
Yeah, well, whatever.
The sword was drawn.
The Galatians won peace, but I'm not taking it because I want Ankara.
Ankara is the precious.
Ankara in this case. Ankara is the modern, Turkish name, I think. It's the modern name for it. But even calling it Ankara is just a modern English pronunciation. It'd be Ankura.
You see, we're fighting against the Koimon
Galaton, the Galatian tribe. Or
Koimon Galaton.
Or Galatian Confederation. This was
Right,
Galatai.
so who do we have on our side?
Well, we've got various Mesopotamian archers, our bronze shield pikemen, the Chalcaspides, our mercenary Galatian spearmen, our Uzonoi, light Greek swordsmen, our general I think it's our general here on the Agama. Yep, there's our general there.
These guys seem to have a very peculiar fascination with long pikes and everything.
Well, it's just been the thing of using long lances, just been kind of the preference for cavalry to use these kind of long lances. For the pikes, that's just a thing that Philip II developed, Philip of Macedon, and it just worked.
I mean, I believe it's effective, but I just noticed that they seem to be a particularly huge fan of using those particular weapons.
Yeah, you see, the whole thing is the Diadochoi continued the same basic fighting system of Alexander, more or less, which was relying on a core of pikemen supplemented by cavalry and other sorts of troops, but the core of your army is the pike phalanx. They kept that going. The only main difference is they just made the pikes longer.
Ah, right.
And started relying on all sorts of other unique types of troops to supplement it.
Oh, a good bit of blood has been spilled already.
Oh yeah.
God, that's not a good sign.
So our cavalry is engaging with the Galatian cavalry.
Damn, It's gonna be a big bloody mess
I
there.
think it's our Tarentines are fighting the Galatians there.
What are Tarentines specialized in again?
Tarentines were specialized in, I think, kind of being skilled horsemen and javelin throwing horsemen. Of course, this is in reference to the Tarentines of Tarentum. But the thing is, these guys are not from Tarentum.
Where are they from then?
They're probably just local Greco-Macedonian Greek settlers who are fighting in a Tarentine style.
Were there any actually? I was actually curious. Are there any sort of like civilian soldiers in this lot actually, like back in the previous campaign?
You mean like citizens?
Citizens, yeah.
Well, I suppose the bulk of your class, like 1 and 2 troops, will be from your citizens, your Greco-Macedonian citizenry.
Yeah, I suppose.
Because for Carthage, what you had was class 1 was like your Phoenicians, the citizens of Carthage. Class 2 were Libby Phoenicians, like people that were like maybe descendants of the local Libyans and Phoenicians. And then class 3 was kind of everybody else.
Okay.
The Libyans, Berbers, foreign mercenary subject, the mercenaries that Carthage relied upon. For the Seleucids, I think the class 1 are called Eugenes, which kind of means like the nobles of sorts. The Greco-Macedonian, the upper class Greco-Macedonian settlers. Class 2 are, I think, the Katoikoi, which are kind of like military settlers. People who were kind of granted land in exchange for military service. I think that in Egypt they were called clerics, clerukoi. But I think for the Seleucids they're known as katoikoi. And then I suppose your class 3 would just be kind of like the non-citizens, you know? And class 4 are your foreigners. Xenoi. So that's like the gist of it, in a way. So like that's like I'm gonna say at the moment, you know. So our pikemen are all class 2. Katoikoi. The Agama and Hetairoi cavalry are class 1. The Royal Peltas are class 1. These are units you get in reforms, but like the Cataphracts, Epilectoi, and the kind of sort of thorax spearmen equivalent are all class 1.
See, they have that joint wall formation. It's a handy wall formation. What was it called again?
Phalanx.
Phalanx, yeah, right.
Oh yeah, the Seleucids used the pike phalanx.
It's a bloody effective one.
Oh yeah, it is quite effective, especially front-on engagement, which is kind of what it was good at.
Yeah, very good at repelling enemies there.
It's kind of the idea. Hammer and anvil. You want to keep the enemy bound up, your anvil, and then your cavalry serves as the hammer. That's the idea of how it works, broadly. And you just need to supplement it by other fighting styles, if you will. So where Galatians kind of came in handy, because they could help, say, protect the flanks.
These guys are celebrating over something.
Well, yeah, routing enemy units.
Well, they are.
They're routing enemy units, so they're celebrating.
Oh, okay.
See, we're fighting a garrison that's sallying out, so it's not very strong. Like, we're already in the routing phase.
Well, that was easy enough.
Oh yeah, it was.
They're taking their sweet ass time running through the hills.
Well, they're
they seem
running
to
as
be,
fast as humanly possible.
yeah, they're holding up their shields above their heads. You don't really
Protect
see-
themselves from like missiles.
I'm not really seeing anything being thrown at them, so they kind of just look around.
Right,
and just
archers
running
shooting
around like
arrows.
idiots.
Yeah, my cavalry says my Tarantine's picking them off.
Picking up the leftovers there.
Yeah, but we want to reduce the garrison down to as few troops as possible. So it'll be much easier to attack and capture.
Deadly but efficient, I suppose.
That's our Thyroid coming in. Picking them off.
Oh, that guy has nowhere to go, and he's down. Well, that sucks. At least he put up a valiant effort.
It'll be nice when the Seleucids get to the thorax reforms. That'll be fun.
Yeah?
Lots of nifty units.
Like what?
Cataphracts, the late Agama, what are they called? Thoracitai Agamatos Basilicol, the kind of heavy guard spearmen, silver shield swordsmen, the Politikoi cavalry unit, they're the ones I particularly like. Late Hittite would be pretty solid. The Epilectoi cavalry would be pretty neat. Your pikes get upgraded into thorax variants. So yeah, quite neat.
Those guys back there, they were running as though carrying those shields and swords was like carrying around a backpack while running to school or something. And you're trying to rush to school. It's just like, it's very exhausting.
Yeah. Oh yeah, another thing you should get in thorax reforms are Galatian thorax swords.
What's so good about them?
They're really strong. And they're badass looking.
I don't know, I think these guys are pretty badass looking enough already.
Oh yeah, but imagine heavily armoured swordsmen with face masks.
Okay, I'm trying to imagine it.
You've seen a picture of them before.
I know. It's just been a while since I've seen the
yeah.
picture.
But yeah, kind of like large dudes with big swords and shields, covered in armor, having a lot of Greek style armor, and a lot of them wearing masks over their faces. You know. So I'm a big fan of that unit. And I've actually tweaked the limit so I can recruit more.
Yeah? How much more can you recruit?
A lot more. I don't remember how much. I just tweaked it, make the limit quite big, because you're usually bound to like 4.
Oh, okay then.
But yeah, and the later gainer are basically cataphracts, so you get 2 units of cataphracts.
God, these guys are absolutely merciless. They just won't let any of them get off scot-free, won't they?
I think that's generally how things were in those days. Most of the casualties in the battle came from the routing phase.
Well, this guy just had a somewhat of a parade before falling down, so at least I think that's what he was doing. They can't run and they can't hide. Shame.
Well, they'll find themselves be used better.
Well,
The
that,
Seleucids.
did you see that guy? He was just walking off. Well, like, you guys have got it handled, so see you later.
Yeah, chasing them down.
You can't run and you can't hide. So get down on the ground and die.
Yeah, the Galatians also were probably significant in the development of the Recolour. Because that's the likely idea because of their shields. It would be very useful to have a big oval shield. So the Greeks would start using it. Apparently we had a sport involving it. A Taureomachia.
Can you not see?
Seems some kind of like a mock fight or duel between two individuals with some kind of sword and a Taureo shield.
My lord offers you peace. Tomorrow, his preoccupation with this war may see him unleash. I trust that you can fail. I propose a simple treaty between equals and friends. All can profit by this offer.
Yeah, okay. We'll take you up on that offer then.
Yeah, we're getting on a aggression pact with Hagar.
We make this
And they kid you on a
modest
defensive
request in the
alliance.
knowledge
But I
No,
decline.
fuck off. We don't care about you.
I don't want to have Arabia be a war front.
No? Why not?
Because it's Arabia. I've already talked before in the last part how it's a bloody hellhole.
Oh, I see we're off to battle Antiochus II. And we make swift work of him. That was handy.
So we capture Ankara and we loot it. So we enslave our captives.
That sucks.
Well, it sucks for them, but is a boon for us.
I know.
And our champion levels up there.
That's your command.
When we get about, I think, 100 turns or so into this campaign, I'll enable CEMN's AVR reforms submod.
What's that?
It's just a mod that changes how champions look to be in line with the reform.
So it's mainly just to line up with historical accuracy.
Kind of. You see, in Rome 2, all agents just have a flat visual appearance that does not really change.
That has been something I've noticed throughout our videos. Yeah.
Yes, because I didn't use AVR when I was playing as Carthage. I didn't use it when I was playing as Carthage. I don't recall. But yeah.
How come you didn't?
I think it was a combination of probably having discovered it when I was already in the middle of the campaign, and I was also using Timbe's trade regions, and it was kind of recommended to not use the two of them together.
Ready for orders.
But so yeah, but AVR changes how agents look.
Okay. Maybe you could put it on maybe you could put it on for a future
I definitely will.
session further on in the campaign, perhaps.
I will, because so you AVR, and then what happens is he's got a submod for that called AVR reforms add-on, which means when in line with these reforms, it will change how champions look to match that reform.
Sounds potentially interesting.
Yeah, it just has a nice visual look. And then I think there's another one that only really applies to Rome, for when Rome gets their thorax reforms, or not the thorax reforms, their imperial reforms, to have a more imperial era looking champion for Rome. But
We always value historical accuracy, so I'd say go for it.
Of course, I intend on using it. I'm just waiting to be the right timing when it's recommended to use it.
Oh, I know. No,
So, see,
I'm just
I'm not
saying.
near 100 turns
as
yet,
token of your good and continued friendship.
where I'm at. I'm like 80 something turns in on this campaign. But yeah, like I've played the Seleucids before with AVR, so I've seen what the champions look like with the reforms. That's pretty neat. You get the Taureo shield and everything. I think they wear chainmail. They certainly have the Taureo shield, which is handy. I know Massalia's champions from the get-go have like chainmail and the oval shield.
Yeah.
I suppose that makes sense because Massalia is a Greek city
No, of course. Yeah.
surrounded by Celtic tribes. So, you know, it kind of makes sense that it's that way, which is kind of the point of it. I believe he plans to rework the mod.
Make haste,
Because
men.
he's learned a lot since. But that will take time. Because it'll be quite an undertaking, but also he's a part of the DEI team, so he's got a lot to do in that. But yeah. Like, I know they're working on some changes to Rise of the Republic campaign. Just to bring
What's that campaign all about?
It's a campaign set in the early days of the Roman Republic, and it's never been really touched by the DEI devs. So like all the units are kind of anachronistic.
Does anyone actually take part in that campaign? Because
People do
I mean,
play
like,
it a
the,
bit.
the
People
dev
do
team
play it.
don't really make any sort of upgrades for that. It could be because no one really
Well,
plays
no,
that
it's just
campaign
because
at
the
all.
interest of the dev team has primarily been on the grand campaign.
No, I suppose, yeah. But
It's not so much
you
due
also
to a
got
lack of
keep in mind
demand,
It could also
it's-
be because not many people decide to play that campaign in the first place.
I think
so
it's a combination. Just there's not. It's less, I suppose, a lack of demand for it, and more just a lack of interest in their part, as well as just it would require doing its own degree of digging and research to try and reconstruct how units look. But I think now they're starting to do a bit of work on it.
Okay.
So
Alright
the
then.
the summer patch to DEI
Ready for orders.
will involve some reworking of the Rise of the Republic to bring it more in line with DEI standards. And I know Summary and Sergeant Swaraj have their own mod called Ad Urbe Condita, which is already their rework of that campaign. And Summary and Swaraj are also DEI devs. And then we have Jake Armitage's project with Marco Damon, which is called Rise of Rome, which is overhauling that campaign to be its own different time period. To the 7th century BC, as Rome was beginning. So yeah, so looks like we recruit a new general and give him a Tyroi bodyguard.
At your command.
I'm assuming they're a pretty decent batch of bodyguards there.
Yeah, the Tyra and the Game are both pretty solid. I like the Gamer more, but I guess I just wanted to kind of have this sort of balance between the two, alternating from army to army.
Like to have an equal handing in both feet, I suppose.
It's just kind of a preference.
Which
Yeah.
one would you prefer, though?
The Gamer.
What sort of benefits do they have? Like what?
They're just a
what
bit
kind of-
heavier and stronger, I'd say, way heavier. But it's also just because of the thorax upgrade that they get. It's just really cool.
What was the other one like? You said you generally prefer those two types of bodyguards. What are the other ones like?
The only other bodyguard unit the Seleucids get, aside from the Tyroi and the Gamer, would be the Hypaspists, which are only used for governors. And in Thorax reforms,
Our
they get
joint
the
enemies would tremble if we
Thoracitai Agematos Basilico, or kind
A
of like
treaty between us
an
would-
infantry royal guard, which are pretty cool. They're spearmen,
Okay then.
solid, heavy spearmen, and I do use them sometimes for bodyguards. The possibly one of the neatest bodyguard units would be the Ptolemaic Royal Guard.
What's that?
The Royal, because it's the Galatian Royal Guard. That's what they're called, the Galatian Royal Guard. So it's basically Galatian thorax swords, but as a bodyguard.
The elitist of the elite.
You could say it that way. They're very strong. and just cool, you know, again. Because I think historically the Ptolemies used Galatians as bodyguards. Certainly I believe Cleopatra VII had Galatian bodyguards. You know, again, these were quite valuable men to use for such duties. So we try to establish trade with Mamlakat Himyar. Their satrap of Saba.
You think to buy us like catamites, like your
Ungrateful
whores.
bastards.
You think pride and
But they don't want
I
to
am
pay for
genuinely
trade.
startled. I
It's
did
not
not
that
think
much.
your people
We
could
drive a
count
hard
on-
bargain, this lot.
We have good reason
Well, we
to
managed to
accept
negotiate a
such
deal.
terms.
I
Yeah,
am
this
here
was
to
something
listen
like Three
if you
Kingdom
speak
or
honestly.
Warhammer 3's
Truth will be your
diplomacy
sharpest
would
weapon.
make this much less tedious.
Really?
I
Yeah,
accept.
How
so you
so?
actually have a way of gauging, you know, you've got a way of gauging how much of they like this deal and what might need to be tweaked to make it more palatable. You can
Oh,
just
so you don't have
automate
to.
it.
So it's not basically a bit of trial and error anymore. You
Yeah,
at least get to.
it's less trial and error and more like, you know, okay, it's this, like, if you want to figure out how much they're willing to pay you, you know, you can see how happy they are with that deal.
Well, that's very handy. At least then you don't have to go through bouts of rejection in order to
Yeah.
get before you get the right price they're asking for, I suppose.
Yeah, indeed. And that's what I like about it.
Yes, because
So
no one likes
unfortunately, it doesn't
rejection,
have this
or at least no
system.
one likes. At least no one likes being rejected.
Well,
Fight
it's less
them
about rejection,
before they
just the
come
fact that
across
it takes,
the right offer.
it's less about rejection and more just the fact that it's a pain in the ass to constantly be adjusting it every little time to see, oh, does this work, does that work?
Yeah, that also factors into it as well.
Setting up our slave trading buildings in Mesopotamia and Syria. Because I think they boost money from slave revenue, and they also reduce servile unrest, which helps with public order.
My people do not like luxury.
Yeah, that
Which
makes
has honestly
sense.
been a problem in this campaign, in part because of all the slaves I'm taking.
My people do not like luxury.
You're a regular slave master there, Kinagusis.
It's just because it's good for your economy. I want to try and experiment. Usually what I've often done is I start early in the campaign just taking slaves liberally, and then I kind of stop enslaving captives. But this time I want to try and see, can I... There are ways around, I suppose, mitigating the public order impacts of slavery, as well as, I think, boosting the revenue you get from it. So I'm still just kind of learning the process.
At your command.
So moving the might of Heracles out, bringing them towards Atropatkan.
Atropatkan.
Yeah,
What's that all about?
they're a Persian faction.
Ah, right. That makes sense.
The name is Media Atropatane, but I'm just used to referring to them as Atropatkan. I don't know a lot about them, to be honest. I know barely anything.
What do you wish of me?
Do you know read an awful lot about the Persians?
Not really.
Just knowing your area of interest.
Just not something I know bits and pieces about the Persians, and I know the broad outline of you get the Achaemenid Persians, then you have the Parthians, and then you have the Sassanids. And I have Nicholas Overtomb's book on the Parthians that I read a bit of,
Know it yet.
but I haven't progressed that far much into it. That's
I
about the
dare not
Parthians.
ask much.
Almighty, we seem to be rejecting an awful lot of diplomacy on our end.
Well, yeah, a lot of times these things are a waste of time. Not worth considering.
Diplomacy is never a bad mistress.
No, but it's not in this case. I don't care for whatever things are to be done. No need for it. It's not beneficial for me. So yeah, I'm planning to go on a bit of what I call an Eastern Anabasis.
What's
Not
that all
unlike,
about?
just basically a conquest of the East. Not unlike Antiochus the Great, which is how he got called the Great, because he went on a campaign to try and restore a lot of the eastern satrapies of
How'd
the
that turn out
Seleucids.
for him?
He was pretty successful. Probably brought the borders of Seleucus to the greatest territorial extent. And then he went up against Rome. And didn't go well for him.
That's putting it lightly.
2 battles against the Romans, Thermopylae and Magnesia, and he lost both. You know, which makes that the 3rd battle of Thermopylae.
And I ask with all due respect for
in
your
ancient, in
august
antiquity.
self, you could let us have some
Not
money.
exactly an ideal way to go, but there you have it, I guess.
Yeah, there were 3 battles in antiquity. The first is the most famous one. That's in the Greco-Persian War. I'm sure you've heard about that
I will
one.
be honest.
Yes,
I
yes, I
seek
have.
coin.
The
Not that
second one,
hopeless.
the second one was in the Celtic invasion of
We
Greece.
make this modest request in the
So it was a collection of Greek states against the Celts. And the third one was in the Roman Seleucid War. Antiochus III versus the Romans. I think his plan at the time was he was hoping just to buy time. Hold the Romans off long enough for his army in Asia to arrive. Because he had a small force with him of like about 10,000 men. Most of them, I think, were probably among his silver shields. So I know Jean-Charles Duplessis kind of thinks the reason why the silver shields was deployed in a bit of an unusual manner at Magnesia was probably because the casualties were too great at Thermopylae to be used as traditional pikemen.
Gathering supplies.
But
Are
yeah,
you ready to serve?
so building up this army, getting some Tarentines and citizen cavalry.
Getting them ready for the long haul.
Yeah. See, I plan to go as far as the Marian territory,
What's up there?
India. Well, it's much of what is kind of India. There's a spice resource that's kind of handy, but also just some nice local units you can get.
Of course, there's a spice route up there. Sure.
Um,
What else could it be?
you get, but some units are pretty good. You get Indo-Hellenic peltasts, Indo-Hellenic Thereoporite, which I'm more interested in. Some Indo-Iranian cavalry. Some macemen. What else? Some elephants. Longbowmen, particularly some mercenary longbowmen. Of course, this isn't the proper subcontinent. I'm talking about like those northern kind of borders of it,
No.
because that's what the game map goes as far as showing. See, the Marians were not in base Rome 2.
No.
The DEI devs added them in.
At your command.
So they're a DEI only faction.
Advance.
So yeah, we're lining up in preparation.
Get moving, you wretches.
Just letting this army patch up.
Well, you heard what he said. He said we had to get moving, we wretches.
I shall see to the great
You wretches.
You wretches.
Hunger for battle.
Well, I see we're moving them up towards Seleucus. What was
Seleucia.
it? Seleucia, yeah. Oh yeah, Seleucia.
Advance,
Yeah, it's our provincial capital in Mesopotamia.
Commander.
I'm gonna upgrade our Lucidorios barracks.
Lucidoros barracks.
Hunger for battle.
I was close.
Yeah. So that's like our infantry barracks.
And once again, it's completely silent on the music end.
Yeah, that happens. Because I'm using the wrong
Yeah.
one music mod
Can
and
you
that
not
just bugs
see?
out sometimes.
Together, our armies could be
Oh really? A hidden agent was exposed. Gee gad. What a surprise.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Commander.
Yeah, waiting for this arm to be patched up.
at your
Patch up,
command.
please.
My wits and words are yours.
Yeah, we got a sizable economy going there.
That's always good to see.
Yep.
What are we doing now? We're
Looking what we can recruit at the different levels.
We hunger for battle.
well, you hunger for battle, do you? Well, don't worry, we'll get you fighting again soon.
At your command.
The might of Heracles. That's
Yep.
a good army.
Yeah,
How can I serve you?
Commander,
good old Heracles.
advance.
Sure you know who Heracles is.
We cannot pass here.
The name rings a bell, but I just don't remember what he does at the top of my head.
You might be more familiar with his other name, Hercules.
Oh yeah, Hercules. Yeah, yeah, I know.
That's his, because his name in Greek is Heracles.
Oh right, I know he's the guy who gets shot in the foot with an arrow and dies in the
No.
Iliad.
No. That's Achilles.
Oh, oh yeah,
He's
Achilles'
shot
foot.
in the
Yeah.
heel, and I don't think that happens in the
I
Iliad.
seek coin as
Because the
Can you
Iliad
not see?
ends before that.
Who's Hercules again? I'm trying to remember what
There
he
was a
did.
Disney
Our
movie
joint
made about
enemies.
him. He's a demigod who is a champion,
Hunger for battle.
son of Zeus.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's ringing a bell
He
for me
took
now.
on creatures like the Nemean lion and I think the Hydra.
Gathering supplies.
Yeah, yeah, okay, it's ringing a bell for me now. I mistook him for Achilles for some
Achilles.
reason. I don't know why, but I just did.
But yes, Heracles is kind of a big deal to the Greeks culturally. And interestingly, he's also significant in Greco-Buddhism.
greetings, friend. Let us use
Special
our
kind of
time
Buddhism.
together in
Huh?
Special kind of Buddhism.
Yes.
Commander.
Basically, there was a thing in Buddhism called the Vajrapani,
We hunger for
who's kind of
battle.
like a protector of the Buddha.
Make haste, men.
And in a lot of Greco-Buddhist
Ready
art,
for further orders.
they based his appearance on
At your
Heracles.
command.
Interesting.
Commander,
Also, there's from like Cyzicus, there's relief that depicts Heracles triumphing over a
let them
Galatian,
cower like kennelled dogs.
which was interesting.
Hmm.
But I think that's all the time we have for today's video.
We take this settlement.
Alright. Well, dear viewers, thanks for joining along with us. Be sure to leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and as always, we will see you all very, very soon.
Indeed. Thanks for watching.